Hi, I'm Gabi Neurer and I want to share with you today how I keep my horses. For me, it is very important that my horses are happy even if I'm not with them, and that I give them the 3 Fs, the Forage, Friends and Freedom, and keep them in the most natural lifestyle as possible. She's asking for belly scratches. So I keep my horses in an open stable concept. So that means they have a large shelter where they can always go in and out as they want. They have part of their paddock available at all times. And in the general setup and the size, I'm just short of 2 acres. So I don't have a whole lot of land available. I don't own the land. We have it only rented. So that is another complication, and that also means that I can't do with the land what I want to do. So I want to share with you in this video how I optimize the little space that I have for my horses so that they can still live a happy life in nature as much as possible. All right, so if you look to my left, you see my pasture. That is just about 1 acre. If you turn to the right, then you can see there's the riding arena at the bottom. So that's very nice. Just go down there. We have the arena right there. It's really quiet and isolated. There's no disturbance by cars. And if you turn more to the right, then we have the shelter with a hard surface in front, so that in the winter or when it's really raining, the horses don't sink in mud. They have the shelter and the hard area in front where they still keep the feet dry. So as you can see, one of the complications is that everything is on a slope. There is literally no spot on this pasture that's flat. So this means when it's raining, everything gets immediately super slippery and the horses really have to pay attention. So to have a hard, dry area in front of the shelter is really a lifesaver in wintertime and in autumn when it's raining a lot. I would love to have my horses in a paddock paradise setting, but due to the slope here and because it is really clay ground, it gets super slippery when wet, and because it's not my land, I'm a bit restricted in these abilities, so I cannot have them in a paddock trail setup. When we still lived in France, we had 3 of the 4 herds in a really beautiful paddock trail setup. So we have a lot of experience setting that up, but here it's just not feasible. So they have that 1 acre available at all times, where they can just, crunch a little bit of the grass. It's very poor land, so there's not a lot of grass growing. And so I'm not worried that my horses get fat on a tiny little bit of grass that they get here. And also my horses are not like obese Shetland ponies where I really need to pay close attention to any kind of grass intake, luckily. Because if I would have a horse with metabolic syndrome, laminitis, or like an extreme easy keeper, this kind of amount of grass I have here on that half acre, even though it's not a lot, would already be borderline and dangerous for that horse. So, but yeah, in this way I have that half an acre that's permanently available for them. With the shelter they can choose if they want to go in or out at all times. You can see them now crunching a little bit of hay under the tree and also under the fences. You see some hay spots, and this is where I feed the hay when it's dry. So this just encourages a little bit more movement. If I hang up the hay only in the shelter, then oftentimes they just stand in the shelter and don't move at all. So when the weather is good, I'm distributing some hay in the morning and at lunchtime here along the fence and under the tree, and then to just move around. It mimics a bit more the natural foraging behavior. And this is how I stimulate movement without that I have a paddock trail system available. I was often contemplating to make a fence to the half of this field so that some grass would grow in the back, so it would have a little bit more pasture, and also that in winter they would not damage the whole pasture or paddock actually and destroy it with mud. But My horses really love when they're all the way in the back to canter forward and run down the hill and up here towards the shelter, and they think it's hilariously funny. So this has kept me, Tara, from dividing that paddock in two, because I just love it to see my horses happy and running and galloping up and down that hill. Yeah, Tarachen, huh? Running up and down that hill is fun, huh? But I still have one little pasture in the back, and I just quickly want to take you there and show you. Huh, Tarachen? All right, so down here there's my little pasture. It's just another acre of land. Right now spring is starting, the grass is only starting to grow. I think I still have to wait like 2 or 3 more weeks until I can let them in there. And then I only let them in there like an hour or 2 hours, because otherwise a little patch of grass is just gone immediately. It doesn't last a long time, it's just a little bit. I think I can provide them with grass a total of 2 months a year for 2 hours in the morning, because it's such poor land and the patch is really not big. But that's what I have, And when my horses can have grass, they're just so happy about it and to run down there. So if you look over there to the right, you can really see my whole patch of land, how it has that smooth hill. The horses love to run down as a roller coaster with the shelter in the end. Yeah. And here along the fence, I feed them the hay when the conditions are dry. And this way they always move. And so yeah, it's not fancy how I have my horses, but I really like the little patch of land. My horses feel well here. And I think it's just a nice example that you don't need to have super fancy land and facilities to still provide horses with a happy, species appropriate lifestyle. Hi, Jantjen. So the house there over the trees, in the top window, that's where we live. And I just absolutely love the fact that when we look out the window, we can see the horses, and I can go down there and be right with my horses. I just love that lifestyle so much. I could not imagine anything else. So, and this has been a huge plus when we've been looking for a place. We really wanted to live with the horses directly. Yeah, that was a very high priority, and that my horses would have a nice sized pasture with an open stable where I could provide them with a nice lifestyle. Pasture hygiene is very important for me, especially because I only have such a little part of land. So we are cleaning up every single poop twice a day. And this just keeps the land cleaner. My horse is healthier because I'm going to reduce the parasite load on them. And I'm going to prevent that actually the parasites or the parasite eggs in the poop can hatch in the grass, and the horses, by nibbling on the grass, are re-ingesting the larvae. So for me, pasture hygiene very important. We clean up twice a day. Yeah! Come, Ozzy! Hey! Hey, Lieben! Mein Jantchen! Hey, Tara! Yes! Hey, Mariana! Hey, du Süße! Du liebe Maus! Hey, Mausi! Hey, du kleiner Wappler! So here's our shelter. It was built new when we came here. It has dimension of 9 times 7 meters. That's in feet, 9 feet, 21 times, no, 9 times 3, 28 times 21 feet, kind of. And this is kind of the size specified, that's the minimum size necessary for animal protection regulations in Austria for 5 horses. That's how many horses I had when we moved here. Sadly, Matsira died last year. But I'm really happy about this roomy shelter, because in the winter when the weather is ugly, my horses still have, a room to move around and not locked up in a tiny space. And especially, my brownies and my white ones, sometimes they don't get along so well. And this way they still have enough room to move out of each other's way. So when the weather is bad, I feed them twice a day hay inside of here. 1 hay net on the left, 1 on the right. So in the morning and in the evening. And when the weather is good, I feed them morning and lunch outside along the fence, like I showed you earlier. And in the evening, I feed them in here because the amount of hay is just too big to put it under the fence. I would have too much wastage going on. Huh, Muzzy, man? Scratches? Okay, Muzzy, scratches. I just love to spend time with my horses here in the shelter. And in this shelter, all of the No Matter the Weather games have been produced. And this is also where we have, you know, some fun in winter when the weather is bad and they can't really use the arena. So the floor is some heavy-duty rubber mats because underneath is just gravel, and I want them, well, I don't want them to be in the mud and have it easy to clean up. In the back, we have our bed, where we have the special bedding. In German, it's a Waldboden. In English, if direct translation would be called forest ground. Essentially, it's just small wood chips mixed with some, with some, compost. So it says it's bioactive and transforms the ammoniac in the pea right away because of the bacteria in there. And by now it's 6 months in, and I have to say it does not stink. It's really amazing. I have to take care of it a little bit, but we essentially just remove the poop, and it's amazing. I didn't believe it at first myself. I think I'm going to do a separate video about it to show you exactly what I do with that bedding, so it's still in nice shape now after 6 months. So yeah, this is where they can sleep, and of course it's also just one big expensive horse toilet too. All right. Here we have our water station. It's super low tech. It's just a hose and 2 troughs. I fill them up, I think, twice a day. In summer, sometimes 3 times when they need a lot of water. Of course, I have to clean the water troughs regularly to keep the water clean. We are very low tech here. We don't even have a freeze protection. So in winter, I have to go with buckets with hot water to unfreeze everything here, but you know, it's doable. We don't have a lot of frost in the winter here because we are really more in the southern area of Europe. It doesn't get super cold here. Amazing, man. So this works for us. And if I think of a paddock trail setup situation, then you would want to separate the shelter and the water as far as possible to encourage movement. But here with my setup, due to the limited possibilities and that it's not my land, I cannot do that. I cannot just dig a water pipe from here all the way to the back of my field just for the sake of separating the shelter and the water. That would not be very handy, because then I would also need to make a solid path all the way over there, and I can't do that because it's not my land. So we have the water here. The horses can reach the water with dry feet, also when it's really wet and muddy conditions. Okay, yeah, too stinky. So that's my general setup. So that's my general setup about how I keep my horses. Mazi wants to make jokes. I'm gonna go feed my horses now. I'm gonna take you with me to show you how I do that. Hey, Mazi! Hey! Ja, Mazi! Hi, my Jantjen. Yeah. All right. So now here we are, feeding my 4 horses. And I don't have, stalls to close them in to avoid fight. So we have a very specific routine. Everybody knows her place or his place, so that I can feed peacefully. Yeah? Mazi, step back a bit. Make sure he gives me room. Yes, Mayana. Mayana is the first one who gets to eat because she's the boss. Yes, she eats in that little shelter here. Tara's place is here. Mazi, in the shelter. Up. Mazi has to go in the shelter because he has a super small amount of food because he's a little bit chunky. So, and then he's done so quickly that he wants to go steal food from his sister. So, we go in the shelter. Good, Mazi man. Good boy. Yeah. Now, Mazi. Always pay attention that he is being polite when feeding. Yes, Muzzy. Huh? There you go. Very good, Muzzy. Super. He says please and thank you for having his food, because he can be a little bit of a gangster. And I just want to make sure I nurture polite behavior in every aspect of daily life. So I have a little fence here to keep him closed in so he cannot go steal food from his sister. So that's my feeding routine. Everything is nice and quiet. Everybody knows his or her spot. I think this is a very important aspect to always pay attention to if you're feeding horses in a herd setting. It can be quite dangerous to go with food buckets into a herd when you don't have good rules established. You easily get squashed when horses start to fight over resources. So yeah, it might take some time to establish those set rules and places, but it totally pays off to take the time to teach this. And I think if you start teaching it, it's going to surprise you that it goes way quicker than you think it will take time. You might ask yourself why Salima has the bucket around her head like that. She eats like a pig. Very sorry for that, Salima, but it's true. So she's the kind of horse, she takes a whole big mouthful, then she lifts her head and she spreads her food all over the place. And yeah, I don't want to waste food. I don't want her to eat off the ground and have stones in her mouth or something like that. So she just has her bucket around her head like this. She's eating like that, I think for 5 years already. It's no issue whatsoever. And I'm saving a lot of money. The supplements she has in her food actually going to the horse and not on the gravel next to her. And I tried to do this with Maserati as well, because he suddenly in winter he started to have a period where we always tipped his bucket over. It's like, Mazi, don't waste your food. And I tried to do that technique with him as well. But on the third day he started to, flip the bucket up. And then the whole food kind of fell upside down on his face. So it did not work for Maserati. But since he has to eat in his shelter in there, the problem is solved. He doesn't tip his bucket over anymore. I think he's much more peaceful in that shelter than eating out here on the gravel. So that's it for today. That was my little tour on how I keep my horses. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to know in the comments how you are keeping your horse.